Welcome to The Voyage, a podcast series by Kusum Publication Club in collaboration with WTO Chairs Program, Nepal. Launched in 2022, this program aims to enhance understanding on multilateral trading system among academics, policymakers, and civil society in Nepal. Launched in 2022, this program aims to enhance the understanding on multilateral trading system among academics, policymakers, and civil society in Nepal. It supports research, public debate, and teaching on international trade, helping to build research facilities and provide insight for government policies. I am Tezendra Singh and I will be your host for today's episode. With me, we have Mrs. Birgit Lienhart Gyawali. She is the founder of Karma Coffee and Karma Handmade, two ventures dedicated in promoting Nepalese coffee and Nepalese handmade products through sustainable business practices. With deep expertise in circular economy, Mrs. Gyawali has significantly contributed to Nepalese coffee sector by collaborating with local producers and fostering community-driven initiatives. Hello, ma'am. Welcome to the show. How are you feeling today, and how does it feel to join us here today?
Good afternoon. Well, thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here and I'm excited to have a chat with you.
Ma'am, it's such a pleasure to have you here. So let's start by getting to know you a bit better. And you've had such an inspiring story from Austria to Nepal. Could you tell us more about where you grew up and how was your life like before coming to Nepal?
Yes, I'm originally from Austria and I grew up in a small village. It's a little bit comparable to Chomsom in Nepal,
Johnson.
except that the infrastructure is a little bit better, good roads, easy accessible. But from the mentality of the people, it's a little bit similar. So from early age, I always realized I want to explore more what's out there. My village was too small. So gradually, I moved to schools and universities which were further away. And I focused in my studies on social anthropology with some irregular subjects like sociology, international relations, and tourism. And this is also what led me to Nepal. I got a job for the German government to support a tourism program in Nepal. And this was the reason why I ended here. But I have to say, it was never on my radar. I really never planned to come to Asia because during all my studies, I focused on Africa and South America. But the project was too tempting, so I decided, let me try for 1 year. This is why I came here, and I never left. That was 21 years ago.
Ma'am, could you share us with some story that inspired you to stay here? Like you mentioned, you came here in a project, right? So, what made you stay here? What was the inspiration?
From day one, I felt really comfortable. I couldn't explain why. But what I realized was at a later stage, Nepal freed me. That sounds really cheesy. But I grew up in a country where everything works really well. We have no big struggle. Yes, there are people jobless. Yes, there is sickness. Yes, there are a lot of things, but the basics are covered, pretty much all the basic needs. Then I came to Nepal and I realized life here is so different. People live very simple, but compared to where I come from, the way they encounter you, the way they treat you, is totally different. You get a type of hospitality and pureness and generousness which I never experienced before. And I felt welcome. Without doing anything, I just felt this is a good place to be. It grounds me and it brings me more closer to my priorities, what I want in life.
It's amazing to hear how you found purpose in Nepal, and you are not just living here; you are contributing so much through your work. So let's delve into that a bit more. You are engaged currently in tourism, handicrafts, and coffee, right? So three really different but quite interesting sectors. what drew your attention towards these industries in particular?
Well, tourism was my focus during studying.
Yeah.
So when I came to Nepal, that was the main area of my work. I continued doing so for different organizations. But now, basically, my tourism phase is kind of over. Now I'm focused on coffee and handicrafts. Having said that, what I did before in tourism was mainly to create destinations. And without realizing, I'm doing pretty much the same right now. The way I create my company and the way I run my company. It's a little destination by itself. So, same principles apply.
Ma'am, getting into tourism first, right? So, if while we are looking at Nepal's economy, how big of an impact does tourism play in it? Is there really good potential to develop Nepal as a major tourist destination in the world? We are kind of there. I think we are good with nature tourism and all, but what more could we do to bring in more and more tourists and develop tourism as one of our major economic sector?
This is now my very personal opinion because I'm not working in tourism anymore. But I do believe Nepal is a great tourism destination. It's a little bit sad that it's mainly known for Everest and and at the same time also for poverty. So I believe whoever is now in tourism has a nice challenge ahead, also showing the world that this country has to offer so much more. It's especially the experiences. So if you are in Kathmandu, if you're in Bhaktapur, if you're going down to the south, in the Terai, if you're going to the east, to the tea fields, coffee fields, if you're going to the mid hills, everywhere is so much to explore. And I think the biggest asset are the people itself, and also to gain different perspectives. So I think now it's becoming more and more important to help the visitors to transform through their traveling, not just climb a mountain. It will always be part of it, but it's not the only reason to come to Nepal. And yes, Nepal is definitely a really important tourism destination and has great potential.
So, Nepal is not only about Everest, it's more than that. It is
Yes.
about all the other experiences as well.
Yes.
So, I think we need to transform how people perceive Nepal, I guess, in order to change and in order to make tourists believe that it is more than just Everest, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Ma'am, let's get into coffee industry in a deeper way. Coffee as a product, it has got great export potential. That is what we keep hearing from all the sources, right? So, what sort of potential does it hold, and why is Nepalese coffee important in the market, in the international market?
Okay. When I started working in coffee, at that time, hardly anyone in Nepal knew that coffee grows. There were two coffee shops. There was the first Himalayan Chaba in Tamil, and there was a little Japanese coffee shop in Tamil. They were selling Nepali coffee. Now it's specialty coffee. At that time, no one talked about specialty coffee. But besides that, hardly anyone knew what's happening in the coffee sector, even though quite some coffee was growing, everything was exported. Now, in the past 12 years, so much has changed. There are thousands of coffee shops, and you get really good coffee, local coffee, in quite some of them. Export is still a topic, but it's interesting. Your question is really interesting because the production is not very high in Nepal. The coffee farms are very remote, and as you mentioned before, most of the young men are outside. So a lot of villages have mainly older people, young kids, and women, and even young women go nowadays abroad. So the production is not really increasing a lot. It's growing very slow. But since Nepal became also a coffee country and people are drinking coffee in Nepal, the demand is increasing a lot. So you're asking me what's the export potential? I think we could easily cover, we could use the whole coffee production in Nepal. We would not really need to export. But as we do, there is a demand outside because Nepal is still exotic, exclusive. The coffee is high quality. It grows in high altitude. So everything above 1,000 meter is a really good altitude that gives an intense flavor to the beans. And we grow mostly Arabica. And because of the way we grow in half shade. It's mixed with other plants like fruit trees, nut trees, spices. So the quality is really good. And since a few years, the specialty scene has taken off, and a lot of buyers motivate the farmers to improve their quality so that they reach a certain quality and rating in the international scene. So it's becoming a little bit more known, but the production is very low. So the only way Nepal can become a known coffee country is to specialize really on highest quality coffee and accordingly charge a higher price for it.
Ma'am, you mentioned specialty coffee, right? So, what is specialty coffee, and why is this becoming a global trend? Why is this becoming a big thing in today's era?
Well, coffee is a really important beverage since a long time. There are a few countries that have a huge production, and if you have huge plantations, the quality sometimes is not as good as it could be. Nepal has no big plantations. Nepal has very small farms. So it's not even a plantation. It's like a village, and the farmers grow, most of them grow some plants. And there is one farmhouse where you have a person who knows how to process to a certain degree. So it's very different from the big coffee countries. And we have such a small production. You can talk about either single origin when it comes from one small area, or you can even talk about micro lots when we are only producing about 50 kilos or a few hundred kilos. That makes the coffee very special because you can really monitor the processing and you can influence the quality. And how you really test it is through Q grading. I mean, that's a profession. We have a few really good Q graders in Nepal. So they get the samples and they cup the coffees and they rate it. And if the coffee reaches a certain amount of points, it falls into the specialty coffees.
So, being specialty coffee, it leads to higher prices. May I assume that?
Yes, that's correct.
Ma'am, also right now coffee is promoted as an experience. It is not a drink. It is more. It is an art. It is an experience, right? So, what is this thing or concept about coffee being an experience? How does it come? How does this concept of coffee being an experience come?
Well, there are different waves of coffee. So when it started, it was during the wars. So it was mainly to give the soldiers some energy, and it was to give them as much as possible. It was not about quality. The price was very low. So over the years, coffee consumption changed. Then the chains came in, like Peet's Coffee in America and Starbucks, where they tried to offer a better quality, but also the price increased. Then the wave came where they thought, okay, people shouldn't only be able to drink the coffee in the coffee houses, they should also be able to drink it at home. So a whole new market opened where they created the equipment, where they started showing how to make it. And people got used to all of that. but also a little bit bored. So the new wave was, okay, you need to offer the people more of an experience. When they go in a coffee house, they should know what they are getting in the cup, what coffee is it, how is it brewed. And slowly, the third wave started, where they used a lot of manual equipment. This is actually where Karma started. We were the first coffee shop that used only manual brewing equipment, and only brewing equipment which we designed ourselves. And I always call it a commercialized pour over. So this was to really engage the customers, to let them know what you get in your cup is really special. In Karma's case, we only offer Nepali coffee. And when we started, no one drank Nepali pour over. So for me, it was the only way to get the knowledge among the customers. So I thought if we do pour over, they will find out what it is we can talk about. It initiates a conversation. That was one reason why we did it, and it worked. But now it's very popular everywhere. You need to have really good coffee for manual brewing because you can taste all the defect beans. Yeah. So it's an experience because the choices are so wide worldwide. And if you want to evolve, if you want to offer something new, you have to come up with new concepts. So it was a gradual evolution from just providing coffee, whatever, to actually thinking, okay, now we need to really give them a better experience.
Uh, Ma'am, we have talked about coffee as well as now. Could you tell me how did you get interested in handicraft sector, and how does it perform as an industry in Nepal? Are we a good like we are really good in a good position while exporting coffee, right? Based on the prices and all. So are we? Is handicraft sector a good? Is there a good business potential in this sector as well?
I think there is a good potential. Um, the way I started getting engaged with producers was I saw all the wastes, all the byproducts from the coffee processing. So coffee processing is very intense. There are a lot of steps, and every step has some byproducts which are generally not used. And coming from the development background, my goal is to make an impact with generating jobs, avoiding waste, contributing to a better environment, making impact on all levels. So I realized these waste products can be utilized, and you can create beautiful new products. So this was my entrance in looking, okay, what artisans are there? What producers are there? What is already there in the market? And what could I make that is a little bit different? So I started my research, and I realized what amazing craftsmanship is there, and how many people work in their little workshops, hidden, most of the times hidden, you don't even know, with metal, with wood, with paper. There's so many different materials. And I realized, oh wow, this is big. There is a huge potential. But at the same time, I also saw that a lot of copying is going on in Nepal. So there is one product that sells, 10 businesses open up selling the same without changing the product or adding value or being a little bit more creative. This mindset is now slowly shifting among the young generation. But most of the older shops, there's a lot of same things in the market. The potential is much bigger. But only now, slowly, it's changing. New knowledge comes in, new technologies come in, and also a more open mindset that you can do different things with the same materials. Yeah. So the potential is definitely there.
Ma'am, is it concerning that younger generations, they they might not be as interested into craftsmanship. After, let's say, 10-20 years down the line, people will get into other sectors of business. So is it concerning if, let's say, after 10 years down the line, will there be enough artisans available? Because I think more of the artisans, they come from a bit older generations, right? So is there a transformation going on, or are younger generations adopting craftsmanship as a business for themselves?
You are right. A lot of the real good artisans are quite old. And a lot of the young people don't want to go into this business. But at the same time, well, maybe one reason is if you visit those workshops, it's really hard to work there. If you look at some of the metal workshops, it's underground, it's in the cellars, or it's in like very little dark courtyards. They don't want to change that. They like it, but the young people don't like it. Having said that, we need to make the handicrafts more sexy. You can't continue doing the same all the time. The young ones have different ideas. They have their own way of thinking, and they want to innovate. They want to use new technologies. They travel the world, so they come back with a lot of new impressions. So that's why what I'm trying to do with the handicrafts we are having at Karma Handmade, we are trying to make it a little bit more sexy, where we integrate different designs, where I know it's liked out, it's liked abroad. So there are a lot of countries who have certain tastes. It's becoming more minimalistic, simpler, but higher quality. It's the details that matter. So if we can manage to change the craftsmanship, that they include these modern elements and focus more on professionalism and details that the export quality can achieve, I think much more can be exported.
So it's really interesting how you see potential in coffee, in tourism, and in handicrafts as well. For me, as someone who wants to become an entrepreneur in future, what would be your recommendations, or what would be your message to people like me? If I want to become an entrepreneur, what are the 1, 2, 3 things which I need to look into and which I need to do right from today, so that I end up becoming an entrepreneur in the future?
Well, first, I think you need some passion. Becoming an entrepreneur is not easy. So you need to be very committed. It's not a smooth path. So there will be a lot of roadblocks along the way. And you cannot turn whenever there is a roadblock. So you need to find a way to remove every single one and keep on going. You also need a certain, it helps if you have a certain knowledge, if it's about finance, how to set it up, if it's about legals, what is required. Also about planning. You should be forward-looking, because most of the businesses take more than 3 years to actually have a good basis. And a lot of people don't have the patience. So if something doesn't work in the first year, they say, it's not working, stop it and do something else. You really need to hang in there and give it your all. It's not a 9-to-5 job. But I believe if you have a passion, if you have a good idea, and if you are committed, you can make it work. You don't need to know everything, but you need to know where to get that from.
And if somebody who wants to become an entrepreneur, which sector of Nepal would you suggest them to look into?
I think I'm not the right one to ask that, because I always like to create markets. The easier way is you have an idea of a product that sells or of a service that sells, you settle it, and then you sell it. You make more money. But I'm always passion-driven and purpose-driven, so I don't really mind about that part. I want to do something that fulfills me. So when I get up in the morning, I want to be happy to get up in the morning, and I want to be happy to do my work. Basically, it's not really work. It's what I would do anyways. So these are different sectors. If you ask for potential, I would say look into IT, look into water, look into, there are a lot of things that are much more beneficial. But my passion is more in the niche markets. You can also make it work there, but it takes a little bit longer.
And younger generations, people like me, we lack patience. We it's true, right? It's difficult to be focused, and it's really difficult to stay committed. I believe it's a challenge for people like us. And from what I can learn from this conversation is we need to be more patient. We need to be more focused, and look into niche if possible to become an entrepreneur. Is that right?
Well, I think you have to listen into yourself what you really want, what is
Yeah.
important for you in life. If it's making a lot of money, you will go a different direction as entrepreneur. If it's making yourself happy and finding a purpose, you will go in another direction. But whatever direction you go, you need a lot of patience, commitment, and endurance, and never give up. And get some good coaches, get some people around you who can give you good advices. It's very important to have a mentor.
It's really inspiring, and it's really I think that is what we are trying to learn from you in this podcast, ma'am. Talking about what makes your work in Karma Coffee and in Karma Handmade more impactful is the concept of integrating circular economy. I think circular economy is something you have been interested in, right? So could you please explain to me what is circular economy, and why is it a big thing in today's era?
Well, circular economy, the model, you talk about it since a few years. I realized whatever I was doing fits into that model. So I didn't plan that model, it didn't exist at that time. But for me, it was important to, in order to make an impact in Nepal, I shall utilize what is available here. I shall try to avoid wastage. And if there is wastage, repurpose it and create something new. And leave the money in the economy. So integrate as many stakeholders and partners as possible instead of importing and giving the money outside of Nepal. So all my principles led automatically to the model of a circular economy. I just give you an example. We work direct with the farmers, so we do not buy bulk beans. We know the whole processing line, so we are very much aware of who is doing what and how much everyone gets. Transparency plays an important role in my business. And we know all the byproducts. We collect them. We utilize artisans to create new products. In our cafe, when we do the manual brewing, we created a mango wood brew station. We created our own kettles out of brass and silver. We have cotton filters, which are stitched in Nepal, made of 100% organic cotton. After the brewing, we don't throw the coffee ground. We collect it, we dry it, we put it back either as fertilizer, or we use it in creating incense, candles. We use it for dyeing for natural fabrics, and we make notebooks. So every step in our brewing process, we avoid wastage, or if it's not possible, we reuse it. And this allows us to work with so many different Nepalis whom we can give income and work. And all that money stays in the economy and helps that the economy grows as well. I'm a small business, but imagine everyone would do that. Imagine where Nepal would be if we would import less, focus much more on our own resources, keep it circulated in our own economy. This country would thrive. And it starts in your own home, what you are doing every day, and it continues in the businesses. It should continue in the government and everywhere. So I think if we would focus much more on our own resources, our own knowledge, we would make a big change here.
So, from what you have said, I think what I understand from here is circular economy is about trying to integrate societal aspect, giving back to society as much as we can, and and kind of creating value within this economy, right? If I'm not wrong, is that
Yes,
right?
that's correct. Plus, also avoid waste. Basically, you only create a product if you really need it, and you create it in a way that it does least damage to the environment and to the society. And you keep everything flowing in the own economy.
So we are being purposeful and also we are being sustainable.
Yes,
Sustainability is a major
is
feature
key.
of circular economy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's very interesting. And ma'am, from me being a business student, how do you think I could integrate this concept in let's say in a new venture? If I want to start something, I want to create an startup. How would I integrate the model of circular economy in my business?
What are you interested in?
Let's say I'm let's say I'm interested in manufacturing garments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think garments, they produce lots of wastage and there is lot of concern about the uses of water.
Right.
And Nepal, there are lots of businesses who are working in this domain as well, I believe.
Yes.
So how would they integrate the concept of circular economy within this domain?
So you can think through the supply chain. If you talk about garments, you need fabric. Where would you get your fabric from? Can you get it from Nepal? Where is it produced? Can you work with the local producers? Can you empower some villagers to produce it for you? Where do the machines come from? Most probably the machines might have to be imported. So you can look what's the impact of importing a machine and how much energy will it take. So you can think of how can I reduce that carbon footprint? What are options? Taking care of sewage water, planting trees, providing certain programs to the people involved. So if you think through the whole supply chain, then the packaging, what packaging are you going to use? Are you using biodegradable packaging? Where will you sell it? Will you create outlets where you have locally made interiors, stuff? What stuff will you hire? Will you hire people you can train and empower? Will you pay them fair? So, well, every little aspect in the whole supply chain needs to be considered and thought through. If something is not so healthy, find ways to make it more healthy. Not avoiding it, but what additional programs can you do? What is a way to be, do look into green financing, look into carbon footprint reduction. There are many ways. So I believe doesn't matter what business idea you have, but if you look at the complete supply chain and value chain, you can consciously decide to be more sustainable.
Man, young people nowadays, people of my age group, they are looking to go abroad. They are looking for opportunities beyond this country. And you are someone who came from Austria to Nepal, and you found your purpose here, and you have also created some really good business within Nepal. So, what would be your message to people like me, to people who are going abroad? Should they change their perspective, or is there something you really want to tell them about Nepalese business environment or something?
Well, I think there are different reasons why young people go to abroad. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So either it's because they have to earn some money to support the family, or they go for higher education, or they just go because they want to have a little bit more freedom and experience life before they get married and have to fulfill certain tasks and a certain societal expectations. So people who want to go abroad and can afford it for the experience, they should, but they should also come back. I think the more experience you have, the more you can integrate that knowledge and establish yourself in Nepal. If you have to go for work pressured by parents, I would just beg the parents to become a little bit more open minded and not pressure the youth, because there are opportunities in Nepal. It's not the case like right now. I know so many places who look desperately for stuff. Even myself in Karma Coffee, we are looking for stuff. If you go to the airport, so many young people are leaving every day. And it's not true that there is no work. There is work. Everyone who wants to work can easily find something. But maybe you need to start at the bottom. When I grew up, it was absolutely normal. If you want to study, you have to work to finance your studies. I was working since I was 16, in my holidays first, and then I was working half and studying. Most of the people do it, except if your parents are really well off. Maybe you don't, but it's a very normal thing. So you grew up gaining experience, already figuring out in what direction you want to go, and it only helps you in your life. Yes, maybe it's stressful, maybe it's hard, but it makes the person you are. So a lot of young people here only study. They don't think of working. If they don't have to, then they don't do it. The parents don't pressure them. I think they are far less in, okay, don't take it as an insult, yeah, but my experience is they are less, they show less initiative, and they are more in a waiting position, what will come to them, without going out and exploring and trying and giving the best. So I feel parents need to change a little bit how they treat their kids and let them out a little bit earlier and tell them, go make your experience and work something, doesn't matter what. That I would like to give also to the young people, that they should not sit and wait till something good comes. And if nothing good comes, they say, okay, I go abroad, life is better there. It's not better there. Most probably you will work much harder abroad than you ever did in Nepal. But you will only realize once you're out. Yeah.
It's kind of eye opener for people like me. We think maybe social media contributes so much for this factor. We believe life beyond Nepal, it's really good, and every problem of our life will be solved if I just go abroad and kind of try to study and make my life within some other countries. They are going to America, Australia, and lots of other places. Nepalese students and youths who go there, as you mentioned already, they go there for work. And I think, just like you mentioned, I also believe that there is potential in Nepal, and youngsters, we should stay within our country. Yes, going out and exploring and learning is important, but coming back and making use of those learning and those experiences is equally important as well. Now it's reflecting on your remarkable journey and impact that you have made within our country. What do you believe has been the key to your success? What advice would you share with youths like us who wants to create meaningful change in the world?
Go for it and don't give up. And try to minimize your investment in the beginning. Go for slow growth, but steady growth. And surround yourself by the right people.
Um, Ma'am, I would also like to ask you about something. This is something which I have been studying almost all my life now. The thing is, we believe businesses in Nepal are kind of negatively influenced because of the political instabilities which take place. You have been doing business in Nepal for over 10, 12 years now. So what sort of impact do you think frequent changes in the government has made in your business? Is this thing that business and political instability being really related, is this thing just a publicly believed notion, or is it true in actual in reality?
It does affect your business. For example, if I want to start a business in Austria, there are certain places, there are chambers where you can go. They give you a huge folder and say, okay, this is step 1 to 20. If you follow that, then you're on the right track. This is a list of contacts. Call those people for legals, for finance, for anything. They support you in any possible way. There are grants. There are many different ways to get support. It's everything is structured. In Nepal, if you start, it's a little bit of a gray area. There are rules and you have to follow them, but they're not so clear. So you have to figure them out. You have to get the right advice from the right people, and you don't expect a lot of support. So you have to do it on your own and with your network. So now, slowly, I believe the government is realizing that it's really important to support the small and medium enterprises, but it's still a long way for them to change the policies and to put the mechanism in place that you actually get something back that really helps you. It will happen, but very slowly. Yes, also access to finance. There's so many things that are really tough right now, but it's not impossible.
It is difficult, but it is possible.
It is possible.
I think we need to look into the brighter side. We need to focus on the possibilities and work our way through it. It's Ma'am, I would also like to ask you about the concept of agrotourism. Right now, people go to visit Elam because it is a tea growing area, and it makes this place really beautiful. So could we develop more of those agrotourisms, or more of those, let's say, coffee plantation area could be developed into a coffee tourism area? Tea plantation areas like Konyam and Ilam, they are already one of the major agrotourism places in our country. So how could we interrelate agriculture and tourism, and is there a possibility, is there a business possibility in this concept?
Yeah, there is a possibility. I'm sure visitors would enjoy it. One weak point is the access. Flying is very expensive, especially foreigners pay a much higher rate. Roads are not very good. So if you go by road, it takes very long, takes a lot of your time. So in order to bring tourists there, the infrastructure needs to improve, and the way tourists are dealt with from the airline side needs to change. But there is a huge potential in the villages. If the villagers welcome this idea, it can easily be developed. But the whole environment to allow tourists to reach there requires some changes. It's a little bit challenging right now.
But there is a prospect for this concept.
Yeah, absolutely. People, as discussed earlier, it's about experiences and transformative travel. So this falls under this, because if you stay in a village, if you join whatever they work, the harvest, if you are part of that, you eat the local food, that's a great experience.
Um, Ma'am, you mentioned, we discussed about coffee. We talked about tourism as well as handicraft sector. did you expect to be in this sector? Like when you were a child or you were at my age, did you think you will be getting into this sector, or did you imagine your life the way it is today?
No, not at all. When I was very small, I wanted to become a teacher. Um, for a long time, I didn't know what I want. I was one of those children who went to school, and I knew I wanted to study, but I chose a subject where everyone told me you shouldn't study that, you will not get a job, and I still did it. So I always did what felt right for me without knowing what will the work be afterwards. I just had this trust in myself that I will figure it out. And yeah, I did. It worked.
I think you are someone who loves thrill and who likes to try new things, because
Yes.
you have just chosen path. You came to Nepal and you pursued everything which came your way. I believe you are someone who loves to experience thrill and try to explore new things in your life. I believe that.
Yeah, that's very true. And I like to grab opportunities. So I think you just have to keep your eyes open. And if something comes along your way that really attracts you and you feel like this is something you want to invest more time and effort, then go for it. It's not necessary to follow all the traditional ways. The world is changing. There's so much more out there, and you should be open for it.
Ma'am, what's your view on globalization, and how do you think it has been impacting business today, and how does it look like the world? How does the world look like 10 or 20 years down the line? Because everything is being so much interconnected, and people can uh, people can change the way they have been the lifestyles and everything has been changed and influenced because of the globalization. So what is your perception, what is your thought on globalization and its impact in Nepalese economy?
That's a big question. Um, well, I think technology plays a really important role. It, I like it. It's a good thing. Even in the villages now, you have your phones. You actually have access to the internet. You actually know, if you want, you get to know what's happening outside. At the same time, you are so remote. Same in Nepal. You have access and you can make choices. You should follow new technologies. You should integrate it in your life, but in a very conscious way. I think there are these two developments. One is becoming more conscious, trying to save whatever is left from the world and contributing your little steps. And then you have the option to go much more into innovation, technology. And I strongly believe you can do both. So you can utilize what's coming, but do it in a conscious way. I think that's the way for Nepal to go forward.
Ma'am, we have almost come to our end of our this discussion, and we being a publication club, we'd like to ask you for recommendations that you'd like to give us. Which sort of books should we study, or what sort of book recommendations would you like to give to youngsters like us?
Book recommendations. I think reading biographies is great. I realized I learn most if I study the lives of others, especially people I admire, who I think they follow the interesting path. Um, that's my biggest recommendation. I personally also really I value certain classics, certain old books, which I still pull out from time to time, where it is more about the inner journey, how to look at yourself, self reflection, and transformative journey. And like one is, I mentioned before, Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha. It's very old. I still love it. Or The Little Prince. It's one of those books that are always in my pocket because they influenced my life and they still give me from time to time a good thought to move on. And then at the same time, I also last year I had a huge pile of books written by Nepalis or people who live in Nepal. I think that's also really interesting to get a different perspective on Nepal and life in Nepal. So yeah, don't pass the Nepali section when you go in a bookshop. I think you can learn a lot from that.
Ma'am, did you read in Nepali books that were written in Nepali
No.
language or the English ones?
English, but written by Nepalis.
Nepali authors.
Yeah.
Ma'am, this conversation has been really truly inspirational, and I think I have learned a lot today. And I believe this will contribute to the way I want to go on and become a business person. There has been lots of inspirations which I have drawn from this podcast and from this discussion with you. And to thank you, we have brought a small token which we would like to hand over to you.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure. And good luck
Thank you,
in
ma'am.
everything you want to do in future.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks so much.